You're listening to the Lawyers with Purpose Practice Success podcast, hosted by Lisa Rozier, featuring attorney Dave Zampano, along with frequent guests. Whether you're a seasoned estate planning attorney, an attorney looking to add estate planning and elder law to your existing list of practice areas, or you're just starting out, this podcast will give you a solid plan for success. Listen now as Dave and his guests share their personal journeys to practice success and the insights they learned along the way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lawyers with Purpose Practice Success podcast. I'm Lisa Rozier, Director of Marketing and Sales here at Lawyers with Purpose, joined by my partner in crime, Dave Zampano, and special guest, Matt Halloran today. He is the co-founder and CRO of ProudMouth. Matt, welcome to our podcast today.
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome.
It's great to be talking back with Matt. Now, Lisa, you, Matt and I had the privilege and honor of meeting Matt through a mutual friend, and Matt had asked me to be on his podcast. And after I got to know him, I'm like, hey, can you come hang out on mine? Because we talk the same language. What is that? You said a CRO, Lisa. So some people listening might not know what that means.
Yeah, so that means a chief relationship officer. Basically, I'm the one who manages all of the strategic relationships for our organization, and I actually handle all the sales. But we handle sales very, very differently, so that's why I'm not like a chief revenue officer, because our whole goal with our organization is to free the world's experts from the torment of sales by having amazing marketing. And so I don't sell. I don't use the techniques that, by the way, I know all of them, but I don't use it. People really call us and they're ready to buy because they are no longer skeptics of who we are. They're actually fans of what we offer.
Yeah.
So, Matt, I'm going to say in the first 2 minutes, every lawyer listening to this is sitting up and listening very close. They've just gotten a little closer to their speaker. And I'm going to tell you why. I've never met a lawyer that, well, I can't say never. I would say less than 5% of the lawyers I've met are comfortable with selling.
Oh, man. Yeah.
In fact, at Lawyers with Purpose, we don't have a sales system. We have what's called the client enrollment system, because you don't have to sell anything. Once you identify what you do and show the value, people will self-select. So what I love about that is all those people put their ear to the microphones, to the speakers, because they're like, oh my gosh, I got to figure this out. What's he going to talk about? So maybe that's one of our topics today is how does that happen? How is it that you in your world, again, I'm going to have you just identify the name of your company, just so people have a context of who you are and what you're doing and why we're having this conversation with the Practice Success podcast in a lawyer industry.
Well, so I cut my teeth as a coach and a consultant doing basically what you guys do for attorneys. I did it for financial advisors. And so that's really where we're brothers from another mother, because you were just in a different industry. And the same struggles that estate planning attorneys, the same struggles that financial services professionals have in ProudMouth specifically. What we built, my business partner and I, we realized at one point that advisors were really tired of people telling them what to do. They needed somebody trusted that would just do it for them. And I was just listening to your educational video on your website. And one of the big things that it said was, I'm a great lawyer. Why do I need to do all this other stuff? I should be practicing law because that's my area of expertise. Financial advisors are no different, right? Their biggest issue is they don't like selling. They hate marketing. They're bad at it, right? They're really not good at client communication. So Kirk and I realized we have a solution for that, which also makes it, Dave, and here's my favorite part, is when you start talking directly to your ideal target market, everything changes. What happens with a lot of people is they want to market to everybody. And in our world, right, then you're up against Susie Orman, Jim Cramer, Dave Ramsey, Fisher Investments, Edelman, all of these humongous, Edward Jones, Ameriprise. But if you really narrow your focus and you start talking to, I don't know, CFOs of publicly traded tech companies. Now you can learn how to speak their language, right? Then they're like, oh my God, Dave's talking to me. He understands me. Therefore, he's my guy. And that's how we move people from skeptics to fans. Then they do what they do with you guys. They come in, they're ready to enroll. That's what we all want, right?
Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about, you kind of sparked on the interest of financial advisors and estate planning. Prior to us jumping on this call, we had a quick little chit chat. So talk to me about some of the things that you've discovered with the synergies or lack of between the financial industry and the estate planning arena.
First off, I've always said this, and I believe this. I learned this from a mentor of mine, that so many people are underneath the table fighting for scraps, and they don't realize there's a seat at the table for everybody. And
Right.
That's how it is with our two professions,
Mm-hmm.
right? We should be showing each other so much love. And the reason why is because a great financial advisor can't be great without you. It's just that simple. They can't. Right? They can't actually live up to the expectations that they have within the industry if they don't have a great estate plan in place, period, done. That's just the rule. And I don't believe that estate planning attorneys can really truly live their purpose without all of the things that a financial advisor. So it's a very symbiotic relationship, but let's get down to business and real brass tacks here. What advisors don't realize is that when they have a relationship with the estate planning attorney, they always think that the estate planning attorney should be providing the same amount of reciprocal referrals that they provide to the estate planning attorney. But what really happens is the estate planning attorney uncovers all of this great stuff, part of the estate that the financial advisor probably is not managing. It's just a different mindset that I believe needs to switch here. But I'll give you a great example. So one of our clients brought his friend who's an estate planning attorney onto his podcast, and they talked about funding a trust, all sorts of aspects of trust. But the final component was, is your trust funded? That was the call to action. And the advisor started getting phone calls. Millions of dollars of new assets came into his firm because these clients had a trust that was not funded, and that money for that trust was outside of that advisor. That's real revenue, guys. I mean, you're talking millions of dollars at 1%. That's walking around money.
I want to pause you because you said about 8 things in that one script. and I have
Sorry,
to
I was
peel back.
following you, Matt.
Yeah, I have to peel back a few things because we have lawyers listening, and I'm going to tell you something. So, funny story about me. 30 years ago, when I started practice, I knocked on doors of financial advisors. And Matt, you have a little bit of gray hair, so I don't know if you remember this, but they wouldn't even take me in. I was the enemy. They literally thought, "What are you doing here? You're the lawyer." And I'm like, "Well, we need to work together. I wanted to show you how my process works and how you fit into it, because I need financial advisors that know what they're doing, because I can't be the financial advisor. I want to be the lawyer." Well, they started opening their doors. Well, I built a whole system called the relationship management system, where I've shared 30 years of working with over 1,000 financial professionals and having strong relationships with them. And what you just said was, one of the number one questions I ask advisors is, what's your biggest frustration in working with lawyers? And their answer is, I give all these referrals and I never get any back. And one of the distinctions that I've always shared with our attorneys is, look, no duh. I mean, we're lawyers. We have ethical restrictions. We can't recommend, right? Or yes, we can. That's a bunch of crap. But I'll get back to that in a minute. But the other part is that, what we show is that we say, listen, I don't have to refer you 5 people. If you refer 5 to me, I'm going to make sure you have all of their assets, because my job is to make sure that not only I know every asset they have, but I know all their family relationships, because I don't want the plan to blow up. And I got to make sure that all the assets are in the right spots in the trust that we create. So now what I've done, what I'm going to do for you, for Mr. Financial Advisor, is I'm going to do something even more important. The first thing I'm going to do, and this is part of our process, this is what I've developed and what's become very successful in our RMS system, is we say, look, we're going to show you every asset they have. In fact, our clients, when they sign an LWP engagement agreement, they consent for us disclosing everything to the financial professionals they identify to us.
Ooh.
They waive and disclose that in their engagement agreement with us, because we say, look, if we can't talk openly with your financial professional, we can only do our legal part. We can't do the other part. But the second thing we do for the financial professionals, man, I want to get your opinion on this, and I want to see what happens with your eyeballs. The listeners can't, but they'll know by your energy. Is we're going to give third-party credibility, right? Because we're going to introduce you to this family. We're going to invite you to their design meeting of their estate plan. When you're there and understanding the design, and we go an hour and a half, we have we have over 7,000 combination of choices they can make. When you hear how they make these choices based on family decisions, you get to know who they are. It becomes intimate. And so you have the privity of being in a space. We invite the financial professional into that. Again, clients do have to approve that part of it, but 90% of our clients do. That gives you a whole nother level of relationship where now you understand what's there and you become part of their team, part of their game plan. This is a different level of relationship. I think this should be happening between attorneys and advisors. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I've got to decompress 80% of what you just said there. So now the shoe's on my foot, right? So first off, 75% of financial advisors don't have all of their clients' assets, and they also don't know that those clients have other advisors. 75%. So a lot of advisors come in and say, "I have all of my clients' assets." No, you don't. The probability is you really, really don't. So there's number one. Number two, most families fire the matriarch and patriarch's financial advisor because they don't have a relationship. You help build that relationship as a trusted member of the team. That is a huge game changer. So for the attorneys who are listening to this, use those 2 points. That's the secret sauce there that's going to get it so that advisors realize. And on top of that, if they're gaining greater share of wallet. So we talk about this in the return on investment for podcasting. And one of them is a greater share of wallet, because it's easier to sell a product to an existing client than it is to get a new one. We all know that. That's the rule of business. Referrals, that's why referrals work so well. And that's why a relationship with an estate planning attorney changes your game as a financial advisor. I'm not guaranteeing, because we don't say that word in financial services, of course, but my experience has been the deeper relationship that you have with estate planning attorneys, the greater share of wallet you're going to get, and then you're going to be looked at as the family's advisor, which is what every financial advisor wants. And you guys, I believe, are the key.
And what's interesting that you said about, I'm going to use the word stickiness, right? The longevity or the relationship building. That's when you have to take a step back and pay attention to who you're working with as well, right? You said that all the way in the beginning, attorneys, and one of the things that the attorneys and the financial advisors have in common is they don't like to market. They are scared of it. They want to stick in their comfort zone and not really look outside of it. And when you get the perfect combination, it's an absolute win-win. So over in our organization, we are huge advocates of a maintenance program and having those type of family picnics and getting to know the second generation and having educational workshops where we're inviting people to come. And that's just another way that you can pull in the financial advisor to create that stickiness. So they have that longevity. Yeah. The other thing is just having that, being really open-minded in terms of how you can capitalize off of your relationship with the attorney, with the understanding you're not always going to be the person that's getting the referral back, right? Because that's something we hear in our industry all the time is, why should I refer to you? Because you're not going to give it back to me, right? That seems to be a really common thing. So how do you recommend, I know you and I have been tossing around some ideas before we jumped on this, but what do you recommend is some strong points of how you can sweeten that relationship without constantly giving that referral back?
A greater share of wallet. I mean, that's all you guys have to say. You say, look, 2 things, greater share of wallet, and you become the family's advisor. That's it. Financial advisors, they have been programmed by people like my old mentor and many other coaches and consultants in financial services that referrals are the only way that you're going to grow your business. But that's very limiting mindset, because there are so many other benefits that happen with strategic relationships like what you were talking about here that make everything worthwhile. Here's the other thing too. So I'm going to bring this back to client communication, because you just brought up, Lisa, some really super things. One is the idea that, you guys do all of these auxiliary relationship building events, right? Let's scale that, right? So all of the sudden, instead of you having to do a very labor intensive and probably rather price intensive event for your clients, you can do that virtually by building the same relationship with them behind the microphone by interviewing. Now, if you're a state regulated RIA, by the way, or if you're in the RIA world in financial services, the SEC just came down and said that you can interview clients as a testimonial. This is brand new. I was just at this conference last week.
I was going to say, that's very new, because I'm familiar with that industry too. That's cool.
So you bring on your estate planning attorney and the client that you did mutual business with, and you guys have a conversation. that's when everything changes. And then it's not marketing. So I'm going to take a step back because advisors and attorneys don't like marketing. They're very, very poor at it. They're using marketing like it's in the 1900s, as my children remind me of how old I am all the time. And you have to market with what works today, and it needs to be convenient. It needs to be on demand, and it needs to speak their language, right? If you do those three things within your marketing, your entire world changes as an attorney or as an advisor.
Matt, I got to tell you, several thoughts here I got to capture and again take to the next level. Scott Blanford was a keynote speaker at our event last October, and he said, I thought, well, we're really shifted my whole perspective, and I can't get his words out of my head. I use them all the time, and I'll restate them here. Today, and this is what he said, I love it. His background was he built the whole technology infrastructure of the major financial services companies. There's several, you would know the names if I said them, but he was responsible from the year 2000. He started building, so he was right at the forefront, and amazing guy to listen to. But he said it this way. I thought it was so perfect. People don't want to talk to you until they want to talk to you. And this is what's different in marketing today, is that people don't want to talk to you to find out about you. They want to find out all about you to determine if they want to talk to you.
Amen, brother.
Very different world. That's why social media has become so important. That's why alternate means, right? But now I want to go to the second step, which kind of goes back to all this kumbaya. You and I like each other. We're both motivators in our respective industries. But here's what I think a distinguishing factor is. Any lawyer listening to this podcast, and hopefully some financial professionals by now, all this is great conversation. How do we make it real? Right? Everybody's great. Okay, yeah, you're great. I listen to you, right? How do we make it real? And I have a 2-word answer for that: systems and processes. When we sit down and do what's our RMS system, relationship management system, the first meeting is called a synergy meeting. That synergy meeting is an hour and 15 minutes. It is a script that we run, and I have done, I think, near 1,000 of them. And every single time when I'm done with that meeting, the person I'm meeting with thanks me and thinks that my last questions is there anything else about you think I need to know? And they're like, no, man, you got it. You know me, who I am. I go, great. Now there's a system and process to how do I have that meeting? There's a system and process inside that meeting of how do I show that system and process is the key to getting the actual result. Not the conversations that you and I are having from podiums is the entry point, or it's an invitation to an entry. What happens once the entry comes? How are you facilitating and managing that? So that really, what do you say about that? The system and process, to me, I think is the power behind all this conversation. Well, that's great, Dave. You guys do this. You lawyers do that. Financial advisors listen to this. They're going to go work with every lawyer with purpose attorney because, oh my God, that's right. But we have a process to not only, we track that from the first meeting with the advisor, we track it, and we have what's called a relationship review meeting, which actually tracks every client we're working on together, what the progress is. What say you?
Well, what I say is advisors,
systems and process.
Yeah. So advisors, that's their world too, right? Systems and processes. That's why the great advisors, the ones who are running a successful business, have all of the systems, all of the checklists, all in the process in place. And when you have it built like what you guys help with, then you can see how other systems and process can work in a symbiotic manner together. And that's what I think is the overall onus of this. Why I'm really honored to be on the show is there is so much wonderful symbiotic relationship, synergistic relationship between how estate planning attorneys think and how advisors think, that you're really just brothers from another mother, sisters from another mother, because of the area of expertise and specialty you need to have. And I think from a systems and process perspective on our end, and what we deliver is very, very specific. We have built everything with all of the systems and processes in place. Our goal is for the advisor or the attorney to show up. We hand them the mic, they do their gig. We do everything else because it is not your skill set. And we built our entire company off the same idea because, Dave, that's how you're successful. Great systems, great processes, great ideas, but implement those ideas. That's what happens a lot. You and I are both really high on quick start, right? And so implementation is not what I'm really good at. I got people for that, right? And if you're an attorney, you need to have.
I got Lisa for that.
Yeah. And so that's what you have to have, that Lisa in place. It's funny because ours is called Lisa too, by the way, Lisa.
It's a great name.
Chief Operating Officer is Lisa. But that's the goal. And great advisors, great estate planning attorneys have the right systems in place because then they can run efficiently and stay in their lane. Marketing is no different. You have to have great systems. You have to have great execution and great accountability to execute and get your voice out in the marketplace.
All right, Matt, I just created a new system and process. You ready? How to get your Lisa.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, huh?
Everybody needs a Lisa, man. I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, so one of the things, again, what I love about you guys, and again, it's a model. I really love the model. We teach in Lawyers with Purpose a concept. When you have a need, there's 3 ways to fill it. Okay. You could buy it, you could rent it, or you can build it. What does that mean? Okay, I need a Lisa, or I need help in marketing. What are the options? I'll go buy it, which means I go hire a director of marketing. I create a job description. Here's all the things you're going to do for me. And they go, oh, no, and I'm going to do that and a whole bunch more, right? So I go and buy it. The second thing I could do is rent it, right? What's that? Those are consultants, outside consultants that will come in and do it for me in the short term or long term. They can say, you know what? I might say, hey, Matt, can you do this for me until I can get my own team built up internally to do it? Yeah, then we rent it. We rent it until we own it, right? The second thing is we can build it. So we find someone inside who maybe is at an entry level or mid-level, and then we coach, mentor, and educate them up to a higher level. We build it. And that's really the key structure of deciding when you're growing a business. Remember, this is the Practice Success podcast. One of the things that I've shared with members for years is that practice success comes from knowing when to buy, when to build, and when to rent. And sometimes the rent is helpful to build. Like a lot of times we brought in those consultants to train our lower or mid-level to bring them up to that next level. That's a great check because it's not a payroll. You don't have all the benefits. Yeah, it costs a little more, but it's a fixed expense that begins and ends. Right. So what do you think about that concept of the buy, rent, or own?
Well, that's
buy, rent, or build. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's how we built our entire business. So ProudMouth specifically. Now, financial advisors aren't as good at that. I just want to be honest there because of one of the things
Compliance.
that makes one of the greatest things that makes a great financial advisor is they're a little bit controlling, right? I don't know if that's the same in your world, but it really is in mine. And so ProudMouth specifically, so we have a fractional CFO. We've had fractional other things. So we rent those positions regularly because we don't really need a full-time one at this point, but they have helped us build the foundation so that our chief operating officer functions at the level she needs to function at, that our accountants and everybody understand that. So we brought in writing consultants and time management consultants. But since both Kirk and I were both consultants, we've spent a lot of money on consultants, branding consultants, messaging consultants, because we know what we know, right? But what's most important is I know on the grand scheme of things, I don't know anything about anything, right? I'm a podcasting expert. I'm an interviewing expert. This is what I am. This is what I do. Anything outside of that, I am humble enough, even though it might not sound like that sometimes, but I am actually humble enough to say, I just don't know. And so I'm going to find the people who do.
And that is, in our community, we have core values. And one of our core values is curiosity, being curious, being open to find out what there is around us, not just having that mentality of, I know it all, right? So.
Yeah, and it's a prison. So as we kind of wind down here, financial advisors and attorneys, anyone in the estate planning industry, I think what I would love, and I think what we've hopefully done a little bit in our time together today, Matt, is bridge the gap. We need each other. The other one, we might call each other the necessary evil, right? They're the necessary evil. Attorneys think the financial advisors are the necessary evil. Financial advisors think attorneys are the necessary evil. I think, again, I've used this example 100 times. If you put your two index fingers up, 1 + 1, and you put them next to each other, if you visualize that, and you say to somebody, what's 1 + 1, and you're holding up your two index fingers, 99 or 100 people out of 100 might say it's 2. But if you really look, it's 11. And that's what I think the relationship between financial professionals and attorneys are. And again, I think systems and processes is the tools, because at the bottom line, what I have always found in any relationship, Matt, is that you have to keep your promises, right? So you have to know the promises you're willing to make, and then you have to keep them. To me, systems and processes helps you identify and know the promises you can make, but more importantly, it helps you keep them when you said you would. And it tells you when you don't keep them so that you can clean it up when you don't. And you know what? In every relationship I've had relationships that are somewhere near 30 years. I can't say it's always been sweet sailing. We've had our challenges because we have screwed up over the years. We've miscommunicated. But in the end, if we stay committed and we stay open and aware, and we're not thinking we know everything, I think in the end, the winner is the consumer. Because when we work well together, there's magic for the consumer. What are your thoughts?
Well, perfection is the enemy of done. And perfection is something that nobody can strive to. Nobody is ever perfect. We look for accuracy and consistency in our world. Those are the words that we try to use. And so if financial advisors make mistakes, but unfortunately their ego gets in the way of actually saying, hey, I could have, hey, I didn't do that as well as I should. And I think that level of humility, that level of self-reflection, as Lisa said, that level of being curious, all of those are very similar words that work very well together. I personally believe that you have to have a level of that humility in order to have a successful relationship like you're just talking about, Dave. It's okay if you're a estate planning attorney, or if you're an estate planning attorney working with an advisor and everything didn't go swimmingly. You know what that is? That's a freaking opportunity to learn. And I don't know about you guys, but you know what? That's an important you're never done doing that. You can go all the way back to Socrates. Socrates said, you're never going to be done learning. The minute you stop learning, you might as well die, right? And so I always want to do whatever I possibly can to learn to get better at my craft, better at the things that I'm good at, that I'd like to be great at. And I'm always testing and making mistakes because I believe in failing forward. And I think that's what you guys have in place. I think that's what a lot of practice management consultants and financial services have in place. And I'll tell you, in our company specifically, man, our first 100 podcasts weren't great. We've done over 4,000 episodes for professionals now, including, by the way, a couple of estate planning attorneys and CPAs. But 4,000, and you've talked to thousands of people. When you get to that level of systems and you're a well-built, well-oiled machine, now all we do is tweak. And that's what I think your guys' system can help. After the systems are built, then they can tweak. But you got to start with that foundation of great systems in place. And when you do, sky's the limit on your growth.
Lisa, final thoughts or ideas or share? Or
I probably can keep on going for another hour in this conversation with Matt, but very great conversation. I love the fact that you can bring a perspective from an industry that we're very synergistic from, and we can have those tough conversations of understanding how to work together. So thank you so much. And for everyone that's listening, again, this is Matt Halloran that joined us today. He is from ProudMouth. You can check him out at proudmouth.com, get his bio, and find out exactly what they do over there at ProudMouth. And thanks so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. What a wonderful conversation.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. We'll see you soon.
Yes. And again, everyone, thank you for joining us today at the Lawyers with Purpose Practice Success podcast. For more episodes, visit us at lawyerswithpurpose.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Practice Success Podcast. Visit www.lawyerswithpurpose.com/podcast to listen to other episodes and to subscribe. We'll see you next time.